So in this segment, we're going to be talking about censorship and online stuff, and kind of opening up a broader conversation about it. I guess that's maybe what I'm trying to do here. If you want to talk about this stuff, then be respectful in the comments. That's all I ask. So bans imposed by Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram on Donald Trump's account raise a big question about how online media is regulated. House Secretary Matt Hancock has said the companies acted after supporters of the US president stormed Washington, D.C.'s Capitol building on Wednesday. Mr. Hancock said the bans showed they were taking editorial decisions. Campaigners want social media to be treated as publishers rather than platforms, meaning more regulation. But opponents did argued it could allow governments to limit debate. And the thing is, right, in America and in the UK, it's different. So in the UK, if you start inciting violence and things like that against people or groups, you can get in trouble for that. It's a punishable offence by the law. Okay, in the US, I don't know what the laws are like because they do have a lot more free speech. You can't do direct threats of violence, libel, slander, defamation. I think there might have been a third one. I can't remember. There's another one. I can't remember. But the point here is that should tech platforms have the ability to censor people, because they've been doing it for a long time. Let's not get twisted now. Platforms have been doing it for a long time. They do stuff with shadow bans. They push people down in the algorithms. They can demonetize your content, which is a form of censorship. If you talk about this thing, we will stop you being financially compensated for your video. We will stop adverts on your videos. And those are different forms of censorship. And tech firms have been doing this for a while now. And so it's only ironic that, Donald Trump, a man who could have done this towards the start of his presidency, if he's genuinely concerned about monopolies and censorship, has only decided to do something after it's affected him, typical conservative fashion. So Mr. Trump faces an impeachment charge, with Democrats accusing the Republican president of encouraging the Washington riot, in which 5 people died. Twitter permanently suspended his @RealDonaldTrump account on Saturday, citing the risk of further violence. But Mr. Trump called the attack an attack on free speech and suggested he would look at building his own platform in the future, which is going to be difficult because of the monopoly different companies have on platforms. And that's something we're going to be talking about with Parler. And look, I detest a lot of these people that are involved here, but at the same time, where do you draw the line with free speech? Because I draw the line at once you start inciting violence, once you start saying people have to do something about this specific thing. Say, the way Trump has done it, where he talks about Second Amendment people and he encourages violence on, groups of people. I draw the line there. Once you start doing that, that's when they do have a right to suspend you. But the problem is that, online, platforms, publishers, whatever you want to call them, Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff. That's where I would say they do have a right to suspend you when you start inciting violence against people. But the problem is, because of the way they've written the rules, there's grey areas. So Trump has been, talking about war and, with Iran for a long time now, inciting violence against Iran. Surely that's a bannable offence, but the thing is, he's a public official. So Twitter were like, we can't ban him because it's in the world's interest to know what he's saying and what he's thinking. And the thing is, I kind of agree with that, because now we don't know what Trump's thinking. He's a much more dangerous person now, because we have no idea what's going on in his stupid head. So, but the thing is, by allowing him a microphone, the problem is he's incited violence where there was an insurrection against the US government. They were stormed the Capitol building. There could have been a far worse situation. You had people with zip ties who were going to hold people hostage. They held out a noose. You think they weren't intending to use that noose? Let's not be stupid. So the question, this is something Matt Hancock talks about as well. He talks about the scenes clearly encouraged by Mr. Trump. The scenes at the American Capitol were terrible, and I was very sad that because American democracy is such a proud thing, it's not. It's flawed, extremely flawed. But there's something else that has changed, which is that social media platforms are making editorial decisions now, and that's clear because they're choosing who should and shouldn't have a voice on their platform. And the thing is, social media companies have always had that platform. If YouTube do not like this video, they can have this video taken down if they really want to. Let's hope they don't, but if they do, they can. If they want to, they can. And so, asked earlier about Twitter's decision to ban Mr. Trump, he told Sky, I think it raises very important questions, which is, it means that the social media platforms are taking editorial decisions, and that is a big question, because then it raises questions about their editorial judgments and the way they're regulated. Twitter banned Mr. Trump's account, followed the increasing use of warning labels on his posts referring to the coronavirus pandemic and the result of the US election. This kind of goes into defamation, disinformation as well by Trump, to constantly constantly tweeting out false things that put people's lives in danger here when it comes to coronavirus, amongst other things. In that case, do you want a man on your platform who's constantly lying and spreading disinformation, using your platform, using the thing that you have built? Do you really want that? I think Facebook are, they've gotten rid of Trump because, he's being sued. Trump's not really helped him in this regard. They're getting hit with, multiple antitrust lawsuits in 40 states, which is the vast majority of states. And what that tells you is Republicans, they've turned the weapon on Facebook here. And it's right to an extent, because these companies do have monopolies. We talk about Parler, and I have to reiterate this because some people online are very stupid. And when I say that I don't like these people, I mean I do not like these people. I can honestly say these people are against a lot of the things that I believe in. But at the same time, I understand how censorship works. It's a double-edged sword. It will catch you, and it can do more damage to you than it can do to them. I guarantee you that. So, Parler has been dropped offline after Amazon pulled support for its so-called free speech social network. The platform has been reliant on tech giants Amazon Web Services, cloud computing service, to provide its alternative to Twitter. So basically, it uses, I think, Amazon as a hosting service for their app. So the thing is here, Parler have been dropped by Google Play Store and by Apple Play Store, Apple's App Store, whatever they call it, or they were, here it is, Google and Apple already removed Parler from their App Store towards the end of last week, saying it failed to comply with their content moderation requirements. So what you can see is these companies have a monopoly on what is allowed on these platforms. Google Play Store, between Google and Apple, they hold the absolute vast majority of the the phone market, and therefore they have most of the app market by extension. Okay. So the question here is, yes, these private companies absolutely have the right to decide who's on or off their platform. Yes, they're not very transparent with it. They have vested interest in keeping some of these people here in where they are. Twitter does make money through ads, and you want more people on your platform, and therefore keeping someone like Donald Trump on your platform does help that, because people are always interested to see what Trump is saying, because he is, for better or for worse and worse, he is the president of the United States, and what he says is important. But the problem here is, do you want that type of person on your platform? Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say here? I know it's very messy, but if it's the case that private businesses are allowed to pick and choose who they want on their platforms in this monopolistic way, where they decide it doesn't matter what you do, you could tweet at anything, they can have you suspended for it. There's no recourse. There's no recourse to have your account put back up. YouTube, like I said when I did a video a few days ago where YouTube banned and then unbanned Talk Radio, they didn't say why. And so without having some sort of mechanism where these companies can be held accountable, then you won't get anywhere. And it'll impact mainly the radicals on the left and the right. Specifically, they're attacking the right this time, and to an extent I agree that some of these people need to be taken off platforms, because they're causing violence, they're inciting violence, and causing a massive causing danger to people. Just like when Alex Jones was censored off the internet, off the mainstream platforms, he was causing chaos and inciting violence against people. The Sandy Hook parents were being attacked by Alex Jones. And so the question I ask you is, A, are these companies too powerful? I believe they are. B, what can you do about it? You can break up the monopolies that they have. You can break up their monopolies you can break up the monopolies they have and things like that. But how much of that will help? If you treat them as some people say, like public utilities, where they are just bound by the law, I think that makes a lot more sense, because then it's a lot more transparent. And if you have some sort of independent arbiter for bans and things like that, then that helps. But at the same time, who pays for that? How expensive would that be to have that sort of mechanism in place to deal with that? And here, where's the, let's see, this is the article here where it talks about how Trump has incited violence. How Trump's words, rhetoric have incited violence, including Capitol breach. So the culmination of so they talk about here, the clues spread over a lifetime of refusing to acknowledge defeat. They spanned a presidency marked by raw angry rhetoric, puffed up conspiracy theories, and a kind of fellowship with patriots drawn from the seething ranks of right-wing extremists. The clues piled on at light speed when Trump lost the election and wouldn't admit it. The culmination of all that came Wednesday when Trump supporters, exhorted by the president to go to the Capitol and take the fight like hell against a stolen election, overran and occupied the building in an explosive confrontation that left a Capitol police officer and 4 others dead. I don't know if those numbers are accurate now. I think it's 5 people that are dead. I'm not sure, but the point is that Trump used Twitter to help create this violence, and so surely then Trump should not have been allowed. Surely then Trump being deplatformed was the right thing to do. And so, but by deplatforming him, with Twitter's vague rules and things like that, was this the right decision? Since Trump has done this in the past, so why is it suddenly now these companies have decided to make this decision? And that is, because if Trump's insurrection was successful, and there was some sort of coup in America, these guys wouldn't be safe. These companies wouldn't be safe. There would be possibly big changes. But I don't know. But the questions we need to ask ourselves are, are these tech companies too powerful? If they are, what are you going to do about it? Because, like I said, there is an antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. And I think, I'm not sure Twitter will face the same, because they haven't had the monopolistic tendencies that Facebook have had. At least I believe so. Facebook taking over Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat. Kind of controlling the flow of information, but also communication as well, is very dangerous. And I'm not sure what else to say. I think, obviously, the line I draw is once you start inciting violence against people, that's where you I think tech companies are allowed to deplatform you at that point. If you start spreading mass disinformation, I think tech companies do, they should be able to deplatform you at that point. But there are so many problems with what is and what isn't classed as disinformation, because there was a point where the World Health Organization, I think, said, this thing isn't that contagious. It's not that bad about the coronavirus. And we find out it is. Dr. Fauci said, masks don't really work. And then he said it is. So, should Fauci be banned for disinformation? I mean, he had reasons for, lying, but it's still misinformation, and lies are lie at the end of the day. I know I've rambled on a lot about this subject, mainly because I really don't have an answer. And so I was hoping someone who's a lot more intelligent than me has an answer for this. But yeah. It's very clear that these companies have massive monopolies. Amazon, massive player in the retail space, but also a huge player in the online hosting space. Amazon Web Services and all that stuff. Massive player when it comes to the server game. They took down Parler. The app stores took down Parler, and surely if they put it in a way where, put it into law that perhaps tech companies are responsible for any incitements of violence on their platforms. You have, say, a couple of days to take it down, these tweets or whatever the hell Parler calls tweets, or you're liable for any violence that comes of that. I don't know, because what we can tell is Trump's rhetoric has led to this incident. No one can deny that. No one can deny that what Trump has said had no impact on this event. It absolutely did. Absolutely did. People are dead in part because of him. And it could have been far worse. It could have been a lot more people dead, a lot more police officers dead. So much for law and order and respect the police, right? Blue lives matter. And so taking Trump off that platform makes sense. But where do you, you personally listening to this video, draw the line at, when people should be censored, when, accounts should be censored and banned? Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I know I've rambled a lot. It's just a subject where I haven't really figured out where I draw the line, I suppose. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.